around a fire talking about the dragon you killed last week, or you're reading it in a book, or you're going to the movies to watch a story about the guy who killed the dragon last week. This is the kind of thing that's always there. Yes, Psyduck, I'm completely serious. Because mythology, it's rooted in art and culture. It's a product of our creative mind. It uses symbolism, it uses metaphor, and it uses them to great effect. It makes compelling, relatable characters. One of the reasons why Mary Sues don't do very well is because they're not relatable. Yes, I get it, you're perfect. I'm not, why should I care? It is evocative, it makes you think, it makes you feel, it stirs your emotions. It's also interactive, because you want to tell the story, you want to share the story with your fellows. This is how you remember, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is where we came from, this is where we're going. This interactivity, this community-centric notion is crucial to the nature of mythology. Well, so is Pokemon, when you think about it. All the monsters in Pokemon were born out of someone's creative impulses. They looked at a painting, they looked at a television show, they looked at a monster, they looked at a fairy tale. It was pulled out of our own history. The story itself is the coming of age. At its core, it is the most basic of life's journeys played out with these little monsters trapped in balls. It works because you are Ash Ketchum. You can name the character whatever you want. If you want to name the character douchebag, you can. There are enough letters. I have a friend who names his characters Surf Bum because he is a surf bum. My characters are all named after characters from a webcomic I write. Because I play them as the character, then I write them into the webcomic. There is a scene where my characters play Pokemon against each other. This idea of the distortion world, a world where nothing makes sense, but it's terrifying to behold, stirs the emotion and is supposed to stir the fear. I guess if you're like 5, that's the scariest thing in the world, is all of a sudden you're walking on the ceiling. It thrives on community because you are required to trade to catch them all. Or you are required to have 2 Game Boys, 2 copies of the game, and no friends to catch them all. I know people like that. Oh no, there's a really great penny arcade where Gabe is talking about his friend, and his friend is like, well, hey, Chuck, what are you doing? I'm trading Pokemon with myself. Now, I'll admit, I have traded Pokemon with myself as well because I own 4 DSs. I don't know how I got 4 DSs, but I do. But I do that so I can send them to the other game and then level them up. And let's put some right here. Who in this audience is a Pokemon master? Who's beaten the Elite Four? Who's got their name inscribed down there? Who's done that? Who's caught them all? Considerably less. Well, you know what? For those who have caught them all, we are the gods of Pokemon. Our little yokai dex is full. So, at its core, Pokemon talks a lot about life lessons. The idea of the hero's journey. The idea that while you're playing this game, you are going through the motions and mirroring the journey of your life on Earth. You draw strength from your bonds with other people. There are a lot of villains that need to be overcome and rivals that need to be defeated. There are a lot of people to meet and talk to, friendships to make, talent to steal. And it's all surrounded by these little mythical monsters trapped in balls, or as my friend likes to say, Pokemon. How to teach children that gladiatorial combat is the right way to go. Think about it. You trap them in a ball, you don't give them food, and you force them to fight. You're like Michael Vick, the Pikachu. It's not too soon, he's already out of jail. So, at its core, Pokemon is a coming-of-age story. You start out as a young child or a teenager in hot pants, and you go out into the world with your 1 monster, a handful of money, and you are told, I'll see you when you're done. The equivalent of throwing your baby into the deep end and saying, I'll see you when you know how to swim. Honest to God, at age 10, you should not be giving anyone 10,000 yen and kicking them out the door. That is parental cruelty at its absolute worst. But it does teach you self-reliance, particularly when you get to that point where you have spent all your money on Pokeballs, but you have no healing potions. There is a mile of tall grass between you and the Pokemon Center, and all your Pokemon have been knocked out. Life lesson. Don't spend all your money on balls. But it's supposed to teach you independence. It's supposed to teach you self-reliance. By the end of this game, you're supposed to be very good with money, especially in some of the incarnations where money is in short supply. You're supposed to learn how to manage your assets, diversify your portfolio. The hell is texting me? Okay. You got to diversify your portfolio, check out your assets, and make sure you are ready and willing to go. And when you are, bring on whatever's in front of you. It also talks a lot about the bonds between allies, friendship being the most important. In some of the later games in the series, if you have no friends, you're up Shit's Creek without a paddle or a Pokemon sometimes. You need to find help in your friends to overcome adversity. You use your friends to move on, to double battle, to triple battle, to break into the Pokemon League, to do whatever you need. You also have to learn to trust your weapon. One of the most important things about Pokemon is the bond between you and your Pokemon. If your Pokemon is happy, it will do things for you. If your Pokemon is not happy, it won't do anything for you. So, life lesson, feed your pet. Life lesson, take care of your pet, train your pet, and become better, because then you can rely on it and trust it. It is a two-way street. The Pokemon needs you just as much as you need it. You also learn about the bond with the rival, the guy who walks into the room and challenges you to a duel every 30 seconds. Because only through knowing your rival will you ever be ready to go against your enemies. One thing I love about Pokemon, oftentimes your rival is more dangerous than the bosses you're fighting. Because his Pokemon are magically all 5 levels higher than you, and the AI means he's going to use whatever you're weak against. If you can beat your rival, congratulations. If you can't beat your rival, you get to try again. Sometimes that doesn't happen in real life, but hey, it's a video game. There's also this idea of the all-powerful, all-encompassing evil. Okay, so, like I said, you're 10 years old, you got some balls and some money, and now you've got to fight a bunch of adults. Lots and lots of adults. Oftentimes, those same adults have a lot of money as well. Occasionally, they have a lot of balls as well. And your goal is, what have you learned? How are you going to defeat them? How are you going to tackle them? Are you going to run away and hide? Or are you going to proudly walk down that basement getting stopped every 5 steps and fight? What are you going to do? Are you going to let that bully laugh at you? Or are you going to walk over there, pull out your onyx, and bury him in the ground? How will you proceed? It's your story. You choose how you proceed, and you do it. What I would love is in Gen 6 for you to be given the option to be evil. Oh my God! Wouldn't that be awesome if you could help the team overthrow the Pokemon League? Would that not be, I might be just playing way too much Skyrim, but honest to God, wouldn't that be the most awesome thing to do where you team up with them?
Yeah. No, it wouldn't.
Why?
Because don't they still have a government?
I've always been of the mindset that the Pokemon League is the government. And that the champion of the Pokemon League becomes president of Japan. That's what because that's like, in the show there are police and government, but in the game you never see either. In fact, the cops are like just dicks in the game. They try to stop you just as much as the enemies. They could be standing right next to the bad guy and they're going after you. So, in the end, you save the day, you prove your mastery, and you go on to do whatever it is one does after one beats Pokemon. Usually, going back, you're beating the Elite Four again and again and again and again, to the point where you're beating the dead horse. But so, Joseph Campbell, and to a lesser extent, Carl Jung, came up with the heroic archetypes. The archetypes are meant to be, I guess you could say, I don't want to use the term cookie cutter, because that's not fair to the archetype. These are the kind of characters that show up in mythology all the time. And you find them in every myth. They all embody certain unique traits. And those traits are, I see some people looking at this trying to decide where I'm going with this. These traits embody the character type. And the character type fulfills a certain niche in the game. The everyman, well, the everyman is me, it's you, every woman, you and you and you and you. The everyman is us. Show me your YouTube. Holy, yeah. But you have this idea of the typical person. Unremarkable, but becomes wonderful by the end of the story. lacks great power, lacks great experience, gains them through hard work, dedication. This is the single most common type of hero you're going to find. And in Pokemon, this is the only hero you can be. If I can't be a villain, I want to see a reluctant hero. I want to see Shinji Ikari with a Pokemon. Is that not the scariest idea in the world?
I mustn't run away.
I mustn't run away. I mustn't run away. I must go into the tall grass. Why is my Pokemon laughing? Why is it chasing me? Daddy! Oscar! I can just imagine what that would be like with a reluctant hero. So, the Everyman is embodying the fact that, like I said, you can name your character whatever you want. In my game of Soul Silver, it's being played by the twin sister of the main character in my game. I logged 70 hours in that game. It was, I think, the second shortest amount of time I've ever played. Mostly because, I don't know why, but I didn't like Soul Silver all that much. At least not as much as I like Platinum, but you can name your character, you sign your trainer card. One of these days, I'm hoping they also give us the opportunity to design what our character looks like. I mean, every single MMORPG lets you do this. And I know it's possible on the DS because you can do it in Dragon Quest also. So Pokemon, if you're listening, give us the ability to design our characters. If you want to go through the game looking like Morticia Adams, you can. If you want to go through the game looking like Henry Rollins, you should be able to. If you want to go through the game looking like Shinji Ikari or Sean Connery, you should be. In fact, I would love to see Sean Connery playing Pokemon. I think he would have nothing but fighting types.
Fire-breathing dragons!
One fire-breathing dragon from that movie. The rest of it should all be badass fighter types, preferably that don't get decapitated in the end. I read your reference. So, then you have the Holy Fool. Bumbling, irresponsible comic. The guy that gets into and out of trouble very easily. This, sir, is your Homer Simpson. This, sir, is your Sun Wukong. This is your character that knows how to get into trouble, likes getting into trouble, often does it to lighten the mood, but in the end, gets pulled out by the skin of his teeth and lives to fight another day. Well, Pokemon gave us blasting off again. These guys, to this day, remain the only Pokemon trainers whose Pokemon evolved out of pity. Not because they ever won a battle, but because Ekans and Coughing felt sorry for them. What happened the moment they evolved? They got beaten again. So, that's just, I think that's hilarious. And these guys are the Holy Fools. They're meant to lighten the mood. They're not meant to be the serious villains. There's other people doing that. These guys are the normal ones. The companion, the support system, the necessary part of a hero's life. The guy who influences your decisions, the guy who follows. This is Sam to your Frodo. This is Jim Hawking to your Gene Starwind. This is Alphonse to your Ed. This is the necessary part of your life. They go the same transformation you do. Their future is inextricably tied to your future. If you succeed, great. If you fail, you let them down, they let you down, you go back to the Pokemon Center where they wake you up. Basically, it's Pikachu. It's whatever your Pokemon is, whatever Pokemon you rely on the most, whichever one likes you the most, whichever one you are willing to give up the most for, that is your companion. And your companion has to put up with Team Rocket's incessant attacks. It has to put up with getting stopped every 5 feet, being challenged to a duel. It has to put up with all those swimming girls who laugh at you from their inner tubes because you're riding around on a Dragonite. But he's always there, he's always smiling, always going pika pika. And he's always going to be there to help you out. The mentor. The teacher, the instructor, the imparter of wisdom. The one who has the knowledge, the one who has the skill, the one who tells you where you need to go. Fortunately, in Pokemon, they don't have to die, like Ben Kenobi, but they help you out along the way. Now, we all know where this one's going. Well, in Pokemon, you are the equivalent of a grad student. Your professor gives you his research and tells you to do it. I was a grad student for 5 years, and in those 5 years, I did research for all my professors, and only when I was done did they let me do mine. It happens. Now this one's tricky. The anti-hero, atypical traits not usually found within the archetypal hero. These guys are occasionally antagonists. Occasionally, it's just the other side, the kind of person who is morally gray. Superman, true justice in the American way. The goddamn Batman.
Yeah!
Cyclops, the Boy Scout. Wolverine.
Yeah!
This is what we're talking about. The anti-hero is the guy who steals from the rich and gives to the poor. The anti-hero is the guy who does the right thing in the end, but sometimes his methods are wrong.
Wouldn't a classical anti-hero be more like Shinji Ikari? He just fails at being a hero?
Well, no, Shinji Ikari is a reluctant hero because the reason he fails is because he doesn't want to be there. An anti-hero often is atypical. He has the same morality as you. It's not that he fails, it's just like, he's the guy that will blow up a colony if it means saving the universe. That kind of idea.
So Zero in Code Geass?
Yes, Zero. Avalanche from Final Fantasy VII. They killed all those people in those Mako reactors for the good of the planet. Anti-hero. It can be a rejection of values, a rejection of morality. It could just be that the person is a little bit of a dick. Now, in Pokemon, last generation gave us this guy. Let's be quite honest about it. N is not a bad guy. I don't know, maybe he's bored. N is not a bad guy. N wants to, he genuinely cares about Pokemon. He genuinely wants to help Pokemon. He genuinely believes whatever you tell him. The problem is, he's going about it the wrong way. He thinks that Pokemon are suffering. So his answer, let's just sever the ties between trainers and their Pokemon and then the Pokemon will be happy. He doesn't quite get that this is a bad thing. But at the same time, does that make N a bad person? No, it makes him uninformed. You need to kindly inform him by kicking his ass.
The world unite! You have nothing to lose but your trainers.
Yeah. But I like my trainer. He feeds me. Are you going to feed me? I don't have the money for it, kid. Go back into the tall grass. Okay. Rival. Foil. Sometimes enemy, sometimes just your competition. The guy who can occasionally be friendly, occasionally not. He can become a companion, he can become a hero. This is the guy who's not trying to kill you. This is the guy that's trying to make sure you're ready. This is the guy that is going to test you in a friendly manner. He's not trying to put you in the ground. He's trying to say, okay, I don't want you to get put in the ground, so I'm going to beat the hell out of you. Pokemon has the greatest rival I've ever seen. So, you're 5 tiles away from the Pokemon Center, all your Pokemon are knocked out. Who comes out the front door and challenges you to a duel? Gary Oak. Gary is the grandson of Professor Oak. Gary has hot women in a convertible. Gary is a superstar.
He has 10 badges.
He has 10 badges in a game that only has 8. How do you, what's up with him?
Cheater!
Probably. Gary is the guy you need to beat.
And yet he didn't get invited to Mewtwo's party.
You know why he didn't get invited to Mewtwo's party? That party only had room for 1 ego and it was taken. I'm sorry, in the battle of the supernatural egos, human, God Pokemon. My vote goes to the God Pokemon, not the human that he can throw with his mind. But Gary is the best example of a rival you're going to find. He's everything you are not. What gives you more satisfaction than beating the guy that is everything you are not? Although, there's a theory on the internet. The theory quite plainly says that, remember when you're fighting Gary and he has Eradicate and suddenly he doesn't have Eradicate anymore? The theory goes that you killed his Eradicate. The next time you see him, he's at the top of the Pokemon Tower, which is where they bury the dead. So ergo, you crashed the wedding. You crashed the funeral after killing his Pokemon, only to beat him up again. Doesn't that make you the D-bag? I think it does. The godlike villain, as this fellow over here probably claims to be, pure, utter, irretrievable evil. This guy went to Evil University for 8 years. This guy built a Death Star on the moon. This guy has everything: political, physical, magical, military, social, economic. This is the be-all and end-all. This is your Emperor Palpatine. This is your Lord Voldemort. This is your great Satan right here. The games have a lot of them. All of them owe a lot to this guy. Let's recount what Giovanni is. The Viridian Gym Leader. Guardian of the Indigo Plateau. This guy, I guess you could say, is the closest thing Pokemon has to a president or captain of industry. He controls everything in Kanto. It's all under his thumb. He kidnapped the primordial Pokemon and turned it into a weapon of mass destruction.
Like a boss.
You are 10 years old, from a hick town in the middle of nowhere, and you beat him. Yes, 3 times. This is the godlike villain that one must overcome if one is going to win. And he is so good at what he does. Wasn't that a crisp suit?
Yeah.
You can tell this guy. You can tell this guy in his youth was a Guido that hung out on the Jersey Shore. And he grew up. He went to St. John's, and now is Grand High Master of the world. Okay, so sometimes they like to borrow from our stories when creating their narratives. The narrative, more often than not, if you look at the subtext underneath the "Hey, I'm 10 years old, let's go save the world," is born out of some major event. In the beginning, some stuff happened, and then we came along. Because every Pokemon game has a built-in creation story. My favorite creation story? In the beginning, there was Arceus, and it was good. To quote Dr. House, Arceus created a universe with 3 states of matter. Then he begat Dialga and Palkia and told them to go and create the land. So Dialga and Palkia created the land. They expelled all of their negativity, and it became Giratina that Arceus banished to the distortion world. And it was good. Seriously, Gen 4 is based on Shinto mythology. Very heavily based on Shinto mythology.
Gen 3 is based on
Don't advance my slides for me. Don't advance my slides for me. I know that one. Gen 4, great mythology, great story. All you have to do is look at the cat, look at the gods, look at the mighty dragons, look at the mighty things that you're dealing with. Deeply philosophical and deeply powerful. But yeah, there's a lot of ideas behind world-shaking cosmic battles. Humanity standing by watching as the angels and the demons rip into each other and reduce our planet to a quivering husk, while 2 brothers drive around in an Impala trying to stop it. Supernatural. I'm trying to drop as many esoteric references into this panel as possible, mostly as a way of waking up. These battles will forever change the world, change the landscape as we know it. They will make us try to survive in the face of great adversity. Wait until I advance the slide.
Which Sidor says that?
What? I do not remember which Sidor says that, but it's also in the book of Enoch, the same kind of story. And they will interlock with one another and engage in combat. With his horns, Behemoth will roar with strength. Leviathan will leap to meet him with his fins with power. Isn't that the entire plot of Gen 3? The beast of the sea fights the beast of the land. The beast of the air intercedes and tells them to stop. That is a very old Semitic story between Bahamut and Leviathan, and Rayquaza can be either God, the beast of the air, or Ziz, the Babylonian air monster that comes down and is more powerful than the two put together. Either way, Groudon versus Kyogre, one night only, get your tickets now, you may not survive. Personally, I don't want to help either team. A flooded world will remind me of the bad Kevin Costner movie, and a world with nothing but land sounds like something horrible because where would you live at the beach? Taoism speaks of perpetual universal harmony. Anyone who was in my religion panel last night knows where this one's going. From this balance springs life. The balance must be forever maintained. If the balance goes out of order, everything goes straight to hell. Or as Newton would say, every action has its equal and opposite reaction. The yin-yang Pokemon. They flat out say the only way Zekrom can be beaten is with Reshiram. The only way Reshiram can be beaten is with Zekrom. The two must constantly be engaged in this supernatural struggle to save the universe. If they ever go out of balance, they will wreak devastation upon the land from the top of the Dragon Tower. You need to be careful, you need to be safe. When N acquires, in my case, Zekrom, you need to get Reshiram and you need to beat him. And make sure the world remains in balance. That is the purest essence of Taoism right there, the balance of forces, embodied in the yin and yang. I'm going to love to see how Kyurem embodies the nothingness aspect. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of scary. Every story has a villain. I don't care. Every story has this monster, this horrible mass darkness that is threatening to engulf the state of the world. Carl Jung called this the shadow. Negative emotion, nightmare, evil act, false knowledge. More than the godlike villain, this is the thing that is often powering the godlike villain. This is the dark side of the force. This is Voldemort giving Lucius Malfoy a wand and saying, go have fun. This is the archetypal dark state of the universe. This is Giratina. The story goes, if you read the flavor text, Giratina was the essence of negativity left over after they created the world. Giratina tried to move against Dialga and Palkia, so Arceus banished him to a world where nothing makes a lick of sense. You have to go into this world of nightmares where up is down, left is right, you're never twirling towards freedom, for the sole purpose of defeating, then triumphing over archetypal evil. It is beautiful, it is philosophical, it is a really nice Pokemon to have in your party. Darkrai is your nightmares come to life. It's not bad enough that negativity has its own form. Now the stuff that you see when you're tripping balls for 8 hours straight has a form, and it doesn't like you. Run while you still can, Darkrai is a-coming. But we have Shadow and Nightmare being given these horrendous, terrifying forms that are purely meant to scare the pants off of you. Which makes sense, they are darkness. This slide is the reason I'm doing this panel. Everything that I have done is for this slide. There is a long-standing tradition, a belief that we will, in the end, we will destroy ourselves. We will create weapons. We already have weapons capable of reducing life on this planet to dust in about 15 seconds. This idea that we will be responsible for our own destruction has been addressed in comic books. One of my favorite scenes in comics is in The Dark Knight Strikes Again, where no alien will come near planet Earth because, yes, we have orbiting missile platforms, but we're the only planet in the universe where the guns are pointed at our planet. So no alien will come near us because we're willing to blow ourselves up. What are we willing to do to them? When the first atomic bomb went off, Oppenheimer flat out said, I have become Shiva, destroyer of worlds. He knew he has now the ability to blow stuff up. Einstein, the release of atom powers changed everything except our way of thinking. We are dangerous to ourselves. Well, there's this beautiful idealized center to the universe. Its name is Mu. It represents unlimited potential, unlimited consciousness, unlimited power. So what do? we kidnap it. We strip out its DNA. We make it stronger. We strip out its compassion, its love, its innocence, the very things that counterbalance. And we create a Mewtwo. We put a funny suit on Mewtwo, and we say, you battle for us. The problem is, we just created a god, and that god hates us. No matter what you do in Pokemon, Mewtwo will never like you. He will always hate you. And Mewtwo is powerful enough to destroy the world. He does in the first Pokemon movie. He trashes Giovanni's mansion, captures all these Pokemon, and then forces them to legit fight. Not using attacks, using their fists. As Meowth says, completely unnatural. We create the weapon, then the weapon turns on us, and then we are perpetually screwed. Until the ideal comes back, and the ideal teaches the monster how to be human. I love the first Pokemon movie for doing this. I remember when I went to see it, I am all of 17 years old going, holy crap, this is awesome. The 7-year-old kid next to me is crying his eyes out. This is not a movie for children, but it's still a good movie. Okay, so who here knows the sad story of Kangaskhan? For those of you who don't, Sugimori said, yes, this was how it was supposed to happen. If your Kangaskhan got knocked out one too many times, it would die. The little thing would come out of its pouch, put on its mother's skull, take one of its mother's bones, and then evolve. From Cubone to Marowak, from Marowak to Kangaskhan, and the cycle would continue. If you look at that little group in the middle, you take the skull off the Cubone, and you get the thing living in the Kangaskhan's pouch. That was the original intention, but they never got around to doing it. But it shows the generational nature of Pokemon and the generational nature of storytelling. The mother dies, the kid goes off and becomes the mother. It is probably, it's a pure story. It's kind of sad when you think about it. Maybe that's why they left it out.
The hell is that?
This is the Spiritomb, number 108 in the Sinnoh Dex. It is composed of 108 souls that are smashed together. In Buddhism, there are 108 sins that one can perform in your life. If you purge yourself of all 108 sins, you become Buddha. But what happens if you fail? That is 108 souls that fail to attain enlightenment, and it has no weaknesses. This is impurity given form that is impossible to beat. Holy crap, where did this thing come from? Why is it kicking my ass? You're fighting against negativity right there. Okay, so, check. Perfect. Sometimes Pokemon has like all these 600 and whatever monsters, and I often ask myself, where did it come from? How do they get their ideas? Well, there's a lot of places one can look when you want to design a game that has these cute little things. Sometimes you just have to look out your back door. You have a rattlesnake. Okay, a bat, the official bird of New York City, the Pidgey, the rat, the Yorkshire Terrier. You just look at things that exist in nature and turn them into monsters. Now, how many people here know that Sandshrew is based on a living creature? It's called the pangolin, a poisonous burrowing mammal. So you've got this idea that you look outside, you find something that looks cool, you make it into a monster. Sometimes, this isn't good enough. I have to tell you 1 second. That's one of the people I'm driving home today. Just gonna let her know where I am. There you go. Okay, sometimes dinosaurs are damn awesome. Yes, they are. The idea
Sometimes.
the idea that these things once stomped across planet Earth, and these things look like the dragons that come from our mythology, great idea just to come and create a monster out of it. So you've got a Pachycephalosaurus Pokemon, a Sauropod Pokemon, a Pterodactyl Pokemon, an Archaeopteryx Pokemon, and a Megafauna Pokemon. You look at it, it's got a great design, you sort of know what it can do, you make a Pokemon out of it. lolicon Pokemon, and the street punk Pokemon whose pants keep falling off.
What about Jinx?
She comes later, she's like 7 things at once. Kind of fitting, seeing as how Pokemon Gen 5 technically takes place in America. Yeah. Oh, like you didn't know that the big city was New York? You went over the Brooklyn Bridge into New York? There's a city based on Scranton, there's a city based on Las Vegas. Yeah. This game takes place in New York. So of course, what do we know about America? Well, there's a lot of goths and punks here. And ice cream.
Lady Gaga.
Now, sometimes you need to look no further than your own folklore when creating your monsters. Japan has a really nice monster culture, 13,000 and counting. You need your inspiration, look no further than your own yokai, and boy do they look at their yokai when creating their Pokemon. The kitsune, the fox. If a kitsune grows enough tails, it starts breathing fire. One of the things about kitsune, they can change form. So your little fennec fox over there can become other kinds of Pokemon based on what you do with it. Zorua takes the shape of whatever the last Pokemon in your party is. One of the major powers attributed to kitsune is the ability to mimic things around them. Then, when you're not looking, it takes its claws and cuts your face off. Artifact gods. There's a legend that if an object reaches a certain age, it develops a soul. And then if the object, its soul gets angry, it reanimates the object and goes after you. That is the exact idea behind the Bandit. Somebody lost the doll got pissed off, the doll comes to life and starts attacking people. Despite also being based on the Yamamara Cyclops, the Dusclops is an animated paper lantern. The clay doll is based on a Jomo period artifact that supposedly could come to life. The Bronzor, despite the fact that it is an animated mirror, there's a lot of strong mirror imagery in Japan. One of the imperial regalia was a jeweled mirror. The Bronzog is based on a funerary urn. Come to life, it has a soul, it works for you. Vanillish, you really shouldn't have dropped that ice cream cone. It wanted to be eaten. Now it's going to take a bite out of you. The Kappa might be one of the most recognizable of all yokai. This crazy little water demon with a dish on its head. If the dish runs out of water, it dies. If the dish remains full, it can do whatever it wants. That is what Golduck looks like. Long beak, webbed feet, big tail, jewel in the middle of its forehead can screw with your head. Lombre, the Mexican Kappa. Webbed feet, horned beak, uses rain dance, sombrero filled with water. The Kama Itachi is a yokai based on a bunch of weasels that create a whirlwind and slice things to shreds. The Linoon is an aerodynamic monster that slices things to shreds. The Sneasel is a scary thing that pounces on you and cuts you to shreds. They love their weasel types. I don't put weasel in there because you need it to be there. But the Kama Itachi is a powerful kind of celestial yokai weasel that is extremely dangerous. Alright. This is all you want to know about Jinx. Yes, Jinx is a number of things. I remember when Jinx first came out, a bunch of people thought she was racist. Because Jinx is wearing blackface, apparently. Actually, the idea for Jinx, the image, is based on Ganguro, which is a fashion trend, where girls would paint their faces gold, dye their hair blonde, and then sit on the subway looking like these highly dolled up things. But you see, Jinx has something else going for it. You often find Jinx on mountains, in the snow, it has strong ice powers. There's a creature in mythology called the Yama-Uba. The Yama-Uba is a mountain hag that dresses up to look pretty, often carries around a baby, and has strong ice powers that it uses to freeze and then eat people. You will never look at Jason Smooch in the same way again, knowing that that thing might be coming down from the mountain to eat you. Its close friend, embodied in the Frostlass, is the Yuki-Onna, the Ice Maiden. Found on mountains, comes down, and drains the heat out of living things. The Yuki-onna, many images show it as being provocative or highly sexualized. That Yuki-onna is looking coy and seductive with her strong ice powers. Now, on top, we have the Ma wheel. The Ma wheel is based on the legend of the Futakuchi-onna, which is the two-faced woman with the mouth on the back of her head. The mouth that likes to eat everything in sight, is incapable of telling lies, and curses like a truck driver. Congratulations, you may have your very own Futakuchi-onna that will follow you around, eat all your food, steal all your Pokeballs, and possibly will not listen to you. You can name it Voldemort if you want, or name it Quirrell. Quirrell is the one with Voldemort in the back of his head. Cats. Cats are cool, aren't they?
Yeah.
According to legend, if a cat grows a second tail, it has the ability to raise the dead and perform strong mental illusions, just like an espionage. The purloin is based on the Kuroneko, the black cat, which is a dark cat that brings ill fortune and bad luck. But the one that I love is the Maneki Neko, otherwise known as Meow. I'm sure all of you have walked into a Chinese restaurant at some point in your life and saw the cat doing this. That is a sign of good fortune and good luck and money. Well, Meowth uses payday. It's super effective, you get money from it. And it just sits there with its paw raised and beckoning. Again, look no further than the stuff that is sitting down the street being sold for 10 cents. Ladies and gentlemen, the worst Sentai team ever.
Espeon can raise the dead?
Maybe. Okay. This is the worst Sentai team ever created. Sometimes they base their ideas on things like Oni, ogres. Very simple. Electabuzz is based on a particular Oni that throws lightning bolts and beats things into the ground. Simple. Glalie has horns, a horrible countenance, and may or may not be based on Oni that live in the mountains. Sock and Throw originally looked more Oni-like. They originally had horns, they originally were hulking creatures, then they decided looked a little too scary, so they toned it down, but we still have Red and Blue being able to use sadistic martial arts, are very strong, and are very determined. But my favorite one is the Slow Bro. There is a kind of Oni called the Sazai Oni that lives underwater, comes out of a shell, and hypnotizes people with its expression, kind of like a siren. So what happens when your shoulder clamps onto the back of a slowpoke? It suddenly has the ability to become a siren, otherwise known as a Sazai Oni. So ladies and gentlemen, the absolute worst Sentai team, somebody has to make this a web series.
Yes.
Boys. Hitchcock was right about something. Boys are important. A lot of mythology there's a lot of bird mythology out there. I mean, in certain cultures, birds are sacred. They're representations of the god. In some cultures, birds can do wonderful or terrible things based on the disposition of the bird. Pokemon has a lot of secret bird types in it. There's not one but two phoenixes. The Moltres is based on the classic idea of the phoenix. The idea that the idea of a fiery bird that will rise from the ashes, streak across the skies, functionally immortal, very simple. The Ho is based on the Hongfang, which is a sacred phoenix found in Chinese mythology. The idea that this flaming bird brings life by flying through the sky. Maybe that's the origin of the Torchic. Maybe not. Zapdos is a thunderbird. It looks like a thunderbird, it acts like a thunderbird. I find it interesting if you find it in the power plant, but it's a thunderbird, no matter how you look at it. Now the hard one for me was the Articuno. Articuno, what could this possibly be based on? And while I was doing my research, I discovered there is a legend of a creature known as the Rook. The Rook is a giant bird from the Arctic that brings ice and snow. It's found in Arabic mythology as the bane of travelers who descend from the mountains bringing blizzards and upturned boats. It's found in Indochina as the Garuda, the bird devil that comes down from the mountains and snatches things. This idea of a bird that comes from the land of ice and snow that brings calamity with it got turned into a Pokemon that I've never actually seen anybody use in the last 5 years.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Articuno's awesome.
Dragons are awesome. Who here likes dragons?
Yeah.
Who here wants to train a dragon?
Yeah.
Honest to God, if you're talking about mythological creatures, this is probably the oldest mythological creature you'll ever find. They have found relief carvings of dragons going back 5,000 to 6,000 years. The idea that one day someone stumbled upon a dinosaur skeleton and didn't know what it was. So assume that it was this giant primordial hell beast that was sent by the gods to scour the land is very popular. But there's many different interpretations of dragons. Now Pokemon loves to use both. Western dragons, let's be quite frank, they look a lot like Charizard. Big monsters with wings that breathe fire, have horrible dispositions, eat the princess, eat your food, scour the land. They're the embodiment of fury, the devil beast that's come to destroy us. What? Yeah, Dragonitis, the fairy dragon. The whimsical beast that will grant you wishes if you are nice to it.
And then murder you if you're not.
Yeah. Now, the onyx. That's a fun one. In the British Isles, they have a creature known as the landworm. The landworm is a limbless dragon that burrows underground. Occasionally it's made of stone, occasionally it is not. The landworm rises from the ground, devastates the land, goes right back into the ground. St. George, who killed the dragon, more than likely was hunting a landworm. I still don't really know where the idea for the landworm came from, but they turned it into a pretty scary Pokemon, if you think about it. Now, Drudagon. Yeah.
There's actually this really giant earthworm that's actually native to Britain that stretches like around 12 feet.
That's kind of scary. I was doing an archaeological dig in England. I'm now kind of happy I didn't run into one. Now, the Drudagon is a fun case. It's a gargoyle. It's hunched over. It looks like it's carved out of stone. The legend behind the gargoyle is, one day this dragon from the river Gargui pisses off God. God punishes it by making it sit on top of cathedrals and protect them. Or, if you're from my generation, stone by day, warriors by night. The gargoyle defends, the gargoyle protects, the gargoyle looks scary, and the gargoyle is emphasized in this idea of the Drudagon that is rather high defense, rather powerful Pokemon to have, that will sit there and look intimidating. Now in the East, it couldn't be more different. A lot of Eastern dragons are associated with water, not fire. Dragonair is a great example. There's a legend of a dragon known as the Ryu. It's sort of a proto-dragon that lives in caves underwater. At night, the Ryu comes to the surface trying to catch pearls that fall down from the heavens. When it catches enough pearls, it becomes a true dragon and can travel through the land bringing wisdom, whimsy, and water. Well, Dragonair is stuck between that and becoming a fairy by catching pearls. You always find them in caves underwater unless you win one in the game corner. Now, Gyarados. There's a Chinese legend of something known as the Dragon's Gate. If a fish jumps over the Dragon's Gate, it turns into a dragon. I swear to God, when I evolve, I'm going to kill you all. It flies through the air, it brings water, it uses Dragon Rage, it's super effective. And to this day, there is rarely a water type more powerful than the Gyarados. So it is like old faithful. Just catch one, you're great. Now the one on the bottom, the Hydreigon, on the one hand is yes based on the Hydra. But on the other hand, it's based on the spirit of the Orochi serpent. The Orochi serpent from Japanese mythology had a number of heads, a foul disposition, and it served this creature known as Yamato no Orochi by going out, snatching princesses, and bringing them back to Yamata, who would then have sex with them and kill them. The Orochi would eventually be defeated by Susanoo a bit later when Susanoo gets it drunk and cuts it to pieces. Hydreigon also bears a striking resemblance to King Ghidorah. So sometimes it's good to be the king. Gods. You take these really awesome images, you put them into your game, and you have some fun. The Kami Trio is the best example. Landorus, Thundurus, Tornadus. Based on Raijin, Fujin, and Inari. The color scheme is pretty accurate. They made them look like the scary monsters that their namesake is. The only problem with this comes with Landorus. Landorus is based on Inari, the god of the hearth. The problem with Inari is it's more of a fox. Wouldn't it mean that the god of the hearth would be closer to a Leafeon than a scary, muscle-bound monster that wants to kill you? I don't know, that's just me. Anubis, the jackal guard. It can see your soul. It knows when you're about to die. Try to fight him, he'll beat you into the ground. Lucario can see your aura. Knows when you're about to die and can beat you into the ground. All of my Lucario are named Skywalker. Worst pun ever, but they're mine. Okay, Growlithe and Arcanine. I was wondering what their deal was, and then I read about something known as the Shisa, or the Koma Inu. They're guardian spirits. Their job is to protect temples and protect places of that nature. In China, they take the form of lions that you see out in front of like the Buddhist shrines that will come to life and defend the shrine if it's threatened. And then you have Entei. Entei isn't really a dog. When you look at it, it looks more like a lion. It's kind of like Pokemon's version of Menchi. They say it's one thing, but it looks like another. Now in Japan, they were turned into dogs or wolves, known as the Koma Inu, one always with its mouth closed, one always with its mouth open, and you find them in front of shrines and temples. Growlithe has an open mouth, Arcanine has a closed mouth, they breathe fire, they're heavenly dogs. That is a great use of indigenous ritual. Lugia, vaguely based on Ryujin, god of the sea, who is occasionally engaged in battle with fire spirits and the gods of fire. This particular version of Ryujin is holding Hello Kitty. There at the bottom. So much mythology uses turtles. And I'm not just talking about Ninja Turtles. I'm talking about the world exists on the back of a turtle swimming in the celestial ocean. That's what the Mayans believed, that's what the Aztecs believed, there's certain Chinese belief about it, there's a fairy tale about the teacup universe that wanders by on the back of a tortoise. This idea of turtles was translated into Torterra, the Pokemon where things are born, live their lives, and die on its back without ever realizing there's a wide world off of the turtle. Again, interesting tweak to the source material, and a really great earth type, grass type, if you really need one. Sometimes the dead don't stay dead. Sometimes they're the embodiment of our very worst fears. Mischievous is a banshee, a floating disembodied head that wails. Ghastly is a will-o'-the-wisp, a disembodied light that bobs around and tries to lead you to despair and torment. Duskull is a grim reaper that sneaks into your house. Candelure is an animated chandelier with a bunch of will-o'-the-wisps, but my favorite one is Drowsy. Drowsy is based on this thing called the Baku. The Baku is a yokai that looks like a pig that eats your dreams. Musharda can do the same thing, but Musharda doesn't have a pig snout and a yellow face. Drowsy puts you to sleep, then uses Dream Eater, super effective, you go night-night. Call them what you will, elves, fairies, wee people, old folk. These are the things that existed before us that lurk just outside of our perception. These are the fairies. Celebi, tree spirit, protector of the forest, shiny. Phoebus and Militic, the ugly duckling, or in this case, the butt-ugly fish. In enough beauty contests, it turns into a lovely serpent. There is at least one story that I know of that says that fairies come from the moon, which is where Clefairy comes from. Now, the one in the corner is Keldeo, one of the new Pokemon, which is a water type that looks like a horse. Well, there's a folktale of a creature called the Kelpie that is a water horse that comes out of lakes and rivers, tries to get you to climb on its back, and if you do, it sucks you into the fairy world and drowns you. Now, I can finally complete my collection of My Little Ponies with the Keldeo. Things that we think exist, but we can't prove. We know the Loch Ness Monster, or the Loch Ness Lapras. We also like to talk about the abominable snowman. Things that live in inhospitable environments where we can't survive, that take on a life of their own. In the bottom we have the Oddish, based roughly on the Mandragora, that plant that puts you to sleep when it screams. That walks around on 2 feet, but by day is just a nice little cluster of leaves. Now, the Dunsparce is interesting. The Dunsparce is based on an indigenous Japanese creature called the Tsuchinoko, which is a flying flat snake that people think exists, but no one has actually seen. But as with everything, they give it a blank expression, a pair of cute little angel wings thrown into Pokemon. Hey, let's have some fun with it, shall we? These are the ones that kind of didn't fit. But they're all based in their own way on some kind of mythological archetype. The Reggies are all based on the Hebrew idea of the golem. Disembodied creatures that are based on some kind of material, be it ice, rock, or steel, that when you get control of them, are infinitely loyal to you and will die for you because you are their master. You've got these 3 things that are ridiculously, or 4 things that are ridiculously powerful that don't have a mind of their own. Once you beat them, they are yours. Now let's start with Rapidash. Rapidash, fiery burning horse. The Greek myth of Helios talks about the sun chariot being pulled across the sky by horses that are perpetually on fire. Anyone who's ever played Dungeons and Dragons, the nightmare is a burning horse from hell. Fiery horses are kind of cool, because fiery horses are scary, they're independent, and they are powerful. Right above it is the Combuskin. Now, the Combuskin is based on a myth called the Basan, which is found throughout Asia. The Basan is a 10-foot tall fire-breathing chicken. You hear it clucking, it bursts into your village, it achieves maximum burnination, and then runs clucking back into the forest. Again, it's called the Basan in Asia. There is a yokai, but it's also found in Vietnam and Laos and in China. Beware the fire-breathing chicken. Right next to it is the Tyranitar. I always thought it was based on the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Got a really good name. Actually, no. D&D players will recognize the Tarrasque. The voracious, vicious, unkillable monster. Now, the Tarrasque is based on a French legend of a giant, voracious hell beast that used to plod across the Frankish countryside, eating everything in sight. The Tyranitar is an unbeatable thing that eats almost everything in sight. Now I'm going to jump down a little bit and talk about the Houndour, or as it's referred to, the Hellhound. Plodding out of the underworld with a foul disposition and the ability to breathe fire, the Hellhound is one of the most dangerous creatures in the world. In Pokemon's case, it is a Doberman that can spit fireballs at you. Kind of terrifying. The last one I'm going to talk about today is the Exeggutor. There is a yokai called the Jinmenju. The Jinmenju is a giant tree that grows on its own in the forest. People go near it and it has beautiful fruit dangling from it. You pick the fruit, you go to bite it, the fruit has a face. Every single face is making a different expression, but their job is the same: to scare the pants off you. Ever see an apple take a bite out of you? If you pick the fruit of the Jinmenju, it will. In the case of Pokemon, the Jinmenju is a very powerful Pokemon type with 3 cute little faces living on top of it. So, like I said, there are over 155 Pokemon, things that I didn't leave in here, like the Keeling Cyclops, things of that nature. Look for it yourself, and you'll find that there's a lot of interesting stuff out there when you go see where do they get their ideas from. Because if you just look at lore and look at nature and look at just everything, you can keep making Pokemon for the next 50 years, and knowing Game Freaks, they probably will. So, thank you so much for coming. I hope that you have fun. I have one more panel today. It's called Be Con, Therefore We Are, a critical look at the modern con-goer. Hopefully my throat won't die before then. So, thank you for coming.